Okay, I guess I'm live. You guys think so? So, I got pretty good feedback from the live stream last night with the reading there. People seem to like that. I liked it. I cried a lot, but I liked it. um, dun, 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 dun. Let's see if this is working. This is the first time I'm using it like this, so I don't even know if there's anybody here or not. Was anybody here last night for that? I know there's, other live streams going to happen tonight and stuff, so I'm sure it probably wouldn't even be that interesting tonight, but because there's other live streams, and hopefully they won't be talking about me, and if they don't talk about me, I'll end my live and they can have their live stream and do their live stream all nice and cozy without any interruptions from me, as long as they don't use me as their content. So, as long as that happens, everything's going to be fine and dandy tonight for everybody. And that'll be great. Right? So, I'm actually just waiting to see if there's anybody in the room. I haven't seen anybody say anything yet. So, I'll give it a little while. I hope everybody's doing good. Oh, shoot. Oops, sorry, buddy. Didn't even know you were there. Sorry, boo boo. Boo boo. Okay. Damn it. Well, I'm only as good as you guys make me, so. And I'm not usually one to just come in and talk to myself, so if nobody says anything, I'll probably just call it a day. I'll give it a little while longer, though, because it really hasn't been that long. Jeez, I can't find that. Stop, get out. I don't know if this is even working. I don't know if you guys can hear me or not, because it's trying something new, and I don't even know. No, it looks just like it's the way it is. Dead air is always fun. Well, anyway, there's this book, right? It's called The Five People You Meet in Heaven. I don't know if anybody is familiar with that book. Is anyone familiar with it? Yeah, you can just nod your head up and down. Be as loud as you've been. You guys are funny. 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 Hey, buddy. Cut this shit. Oh, great job on your fake apartment of mine, Sharon's. I don't know how you find pleasure and joy in making up lies about people. That's really fucked up. It's fucked up that a lot of these people like to make up lies about people. I don't even understand why. But I'll tell you what I do enjoy. And I actually enjoyed reading the results from people, even in other live streams, about the reading that I did last night. So I figure, I know there's, another live stream coming on soon, so probably whatever. But even if anybody listens to this in replay, I'm doing this for somebody named Pauline. It's only 52 pages, by the way. It's called The Five People You Meet in Heaven by Mitch Albom. Okay. It says, this book is dedicated to Edward Beecham, my beloved uncle, who gave me my first concept of heaven. Every year around Thanksgiving table, he spoke of a night in the hospital when he awoke to see the souls of his departed loved ones sitting on the edge of the bed, waiting for him. I'll never forget that story, and I never forgot him. Everyone has an idea of heaven, as do most religions, and they should all be respected. The version represented here is only a guess, a wish in some ways, that my uncle and others like him, people who felt unimportant here on earth, realized finally how much they mattered and how they were loved. It starts at the end, so it's called The End. This is a story about a man named Eddie, and it begins at the end, with Eddie dying in the sun. It might seem strange to start a story with an ending. If you guys remember, The Art of Racing in the Rain started at the end as well. But all endings are also beginnings. We just don't know it at the time. The last hour of Eddie's life was spent, like most of the others, at Ruby Pier, an amusement park by a great gray ocean. The park had the usual attractions: a boardwalk, a Ferris wheel, roller coasters, bumper cars, a taffy stand, and an arcade where you could shoot streams of water into a clown's mouth. It also had a big new ride called Freddy's Free Fall, and this would be where Eddie would be killed in an accident that would make newspapers around the state. At the time of his death, Eddie was a squat, white-haired old man with a short neck, a barrel chest, thick forearms, and a faded army tattoo on his right shoulder. His legs were thin and veined now, and his left knee, wounded in the war, was ruined by arthritis. He used a cane to get around. His face was broad and craggy from the sun, with salty whiskers and a lower jaw that protruded slightly, making him look prouder than he felt. He kept a cigarette behind his left ear and a ring of keys hooked to his belt. He wore rubber-soled shoes. He wore an old linen cap. His pale brown uniform suggested a working man, and a working man he was. Eddie's job was maintaining the rides, which really meant keeping them safe. Every afternoon, he walked the park, checking on each attraction, from the tilt-a-whirl to the pipeline plunge. He looked for broken boards, loose bolts, worn-out steel. Sometimes he would stop, his eyes glazed over, and people walking past thought something was wrong, but he was listening, that's all. After all these years, he could hear trouble in the spits and the stutters and the thrumming of the equipment, he said. With 30 minutes left on Earth, Eddie took his last walk along Ruby Pier. He passed an elderly couple. Folks, he mumbled, touching his cap. They nodded politely. Customers knew Eddie, at least the regular ones did. They saw him summer after summer. One of those faces you associate with a place. His work shirt had a patch on the chest that read Eddie above the word maintenance, and sometimes they would say, "Hiya, Eddie Maintenance," although he never thought that was funny. Today, it so happened, was Eddie's birthday, his 83rd. A doctor last week had told him he had shingles. Shingles? Eddie didn't even know what they were. There's people downstairs again. Constant. Hi, Lipstick. Thank you. I wish those people would stop moving in downstairs. I hate to be mad somebody's moving in, but they do it so late. They have all day long to do it. And they start doing it at this time. It's almost 11. Holy shit, man. All right, Roscoe, come on, buddy. Oh, why do they have to be out in the, like, just move your stuff in. Oh my God. Hi, Ministry. Hi, Cassidy. I'll try to continue. All right, now I'm doing the 5 people you meet in heaven. I'm only on the first page, or the second page, so there's only 52 pages. Or the third page, actually. Ministry, Cassidy, Lipstick. All right. Jesus. All right. Today, it so happened, was Eddie's birthday, his 83rd. A doctor last week had told him he had shingles. Shingles? Eddie didn't even know what they were. Once he had been strong enough to lift a carousel horse in each arm. That was a long time ago. This is called the 5 people you meet in heaven. It kind of starts at the end. Eddie, take me, Eddie, take me. 40 minutes until his death, Eddie made his way to the front of the roller coaster line. He rode every attraction at least once a week to be certain the brakes and steering were solid. Today was coaster day. The ghoster coaster, they called this one. And the kids who knew Eddie yelled to get in the cart with him. Children liked Eddie, not teenagers. Teenagers gave him a headache. Over the years, Eddie figured he'd seen every sort of do-nothing, snarl-at-you teenager there was. But children were different. Children looked at Eddie, who, with his protruding lower jaw, always seemed to be grinning like a dolphin, and they trusted him. They drew in like cold hands to a fire. They hugged his leg, they played with his keys. Eddie mostly grunted, never saying much. He figured it was because he didn't say much that they liked him. Now Eddie tapped two little boys with backward baseball caps. They raced to the car and tumbled in. Eddie handed his cane to the ride attendant and slowly lowered himself between the two. Here we go! Here we go! One boy squealed as the other pulled Eddie's arm around his shoulder. Eddie lowered the lap bar and clack, 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 up they went. It's the neighbors. I think somebody's moving in downstairs, and they do it late at night probably because their mate might work or something during the day. I don't know, but if you guys don't want to hear this, let me know and I'll do it another night. I can do it another night if you want. I just was doing it for a lady named Pauline. I like her. She's nice, and she brought it up, and I hadn't read it in a while. So, but I know you guys are probably gonna go to a different live later, so I don't know. As long as there's no talking of me in there, everything will be fine and dandy. And you know, damn it, I think I was muted that whole time. I'm sitting there reading away. Jeez, oh Pete. It's called The Five People You Meet in Heaven, and I'm only on page 4. So, a story went around about Eddie when he was a boy growing up on this very same pier. He got into an alley fight. 5 kids from Pitkin Avenue had cornered his brother Joe and were about to give him a beating. Eddie was a block away on a stoop eating a sandwich. He heard his brother scream. He ran to the alley, grabbed a garbage can lid, and sent 2 boys to the hospital. After that, Joe didn't talk to him for months. He was ashamed. Joe was the oldest, the firstborn, but it was Eddie who did the fighting. Can we go again, Eddie, please? 34 minutes left to live. Eddie lifted the lap bar, gave each boy a candy, retrieved his cane, then limped to the maintenance shop to cool down from the summer heat. Had he known death was imminent, he might have gone somewhere else. Instead, he did what we always do. We all do. He went about his dull routine as if all the days in the world were still to come. One of the shop workers, a lanky, bony-cheeked young man named Dominguez, was by the sink wiping grease off a wheel. Yo, Eddie, he said. Dom, Eddie said. The shop smelled like sawdust. It was dark and cramped with a low ceiling and pegboard walls that held drills, saws, and hammers. Skeleton parts of fun park rides were everywhere. Compressors, engines, belts, light bulbs, the top of a pirate's head. Stacked against one wall were coffee cans of nails and screws, and stacked against another wall were endless tubs of grease. Greasing a track, Eddie would say, required no more brains than washing a dish. The only difference was you got dirtier as you did it, not cleaner. And that was the sort of work that Eddie did. Spread grease, adjusted brakes, tightened bolts, checked electrical panels. Many times he had longed to leave this place, find different work, build another kind of life. but the war came. His plans never worked out. In time, he found himself graying and wearing looser pants, and in a state of weary acceptance that this was who he was and who he would always be, a man with sand in his shoes in a world of mechanical laughter and grilled frankfurters. Hi, Night Owl. I'm just reading The Five People You Meet in Heaven. Like his father before him, the patch on his shirt, Eddie was maintenance, the head of maintenance, or as the kids sometimes called him, the ride man at Ruby Pier. It's called The Five People You Meet in Heaven by Mitch Albom, page 6. 30 minutes left to live. Hey, happy birthday, I hear, Dominguez said. Eddie grunted. No party or nothing? Eddie looked at him as if he were crazy. For a moment he thought how strange it was to be growing old in a place that smelled of cotton candy. Well, remember, Eddie, I'm off next week. Starting Monday. I'm going to Mexico. Eddie nodded, and Dominguez did a little dance. Me and Teresa are going to see the whole family. Party! He stopped dancing when he noticed Eddie staring. You ever been? Dominguez said. Been? To Mexico. Eddie exhaled throughout his nose. Kid, I never been anywhere I wasn't shipped to with a rifle. Oh, okay, Nina. He watched Dominguez return to the sink. He thought for a moment, then he took a small wad of bills from his pocket and removed the only 20s he had, 2 of them. He held them out. Get your wife something nice, Eddie said. Dominguez regarded the money, broke into a huge smile, and said, Come on, man, you sure? Eddie pushed the money into Dominguez's palm, and they walked back to the storage area. Then he walked back to the storage area. A small fishing hole had been cut into the boardwalk planks years ago. Eddie lifted a plastic cup. He tugged on a nylon line that dropped 80 feet into the sea. A piece of bologna was still attached. We catch anything? Dominguez yelled. Tell me we caught something. Eddie wondered how the guy could be so optimistic. There was never anything on that line. One day, Dominguez yelled, we're going to get a halibut. Yep, Eddie mumbled, although he knew you could never pull a fish that big through a hole that small. 26 minutes left to live. Eddie crossed the boardwalk to the south end. Business was slow. The girl behind the taffy counter was leaning on her elbows, popping her gum. Once, Ruby Pier was the place to go in the summer. It had elephants and fireworks and marathon dance contests, but people didn't go to ocean piers much anymore. They went to theme parks, where you paid $75 a ticket and had your photo taken with a giant furry character. Eddie limped past the bumper cars and fixed his eyes on a group of teenagers leaning over the railing. Great, he told himself. Just what I need. Off, Eddie said, tapping the railing with his cane. Come on, it's not safe. The teens glared at him. The carpool sizzled with electricity. It's not safe, Eddie repeated. The teens looked at each other. One kid, who wore a streak of orange in his hair, sneered at Eddie and then stepped onto the middle rail. Come on, dude. Hit me, he yelled, waving at the young drivers. Hit me. Eddie whacked the railing so hard with his cane he almost snapped it in two. Move it. The teens ran away. Another story went around about Eddie. As a soldier, he had engaged in combat numerous times. I know, ministry, but maybe not this way. um, as a soldier, he engaged in combat numerous times. He'd been brave, even won a medal. But towards the end of his service, he got into a fight with one of his own men. That's how Eddie was wounded. No one knew what happened to the other guy. No one asked. Within 19 minutes left on Earth, with 19 minutes left on Earth, Eddie sat for the last time in an old aluminum beach chair, his short, muscled arms folded like seal flippers across his chest. His legs were red from the sun. His left knee still showed scars. In truth, much of Eddie's body suggested a survived encounter. His fingers were bent at awkward angles, thanks to numerous fractures from assorted machinery. His nose had been broken several times in what he called saloon fights. His broadly jawed face might have been good looking once, the way a prize fighter might have looked before he took too many punches. Now, Eddie just looked tired. This was his regular spot on the Ruby Beer Boardwalk. Ruby Pier, not Ruby Beer. Behind the Jackrabbit ride, which in the 1980s was the Thunderbolt, which in the 1970s was the Steel Eel. Ministry. Did you ever go? Really? Ah, librarian. I love librarians. God, I love librarians. Librarians bring tears to my eyes. They do. What a noble job. Love, love, love it. Love it. Love librarians. Man, my daughter is, who she is today for because of a lot of different people in her life. Um, but those librarians, I remember the one she said, how is she? She goes, we always think of her. This is after my daughter had graduated and went off to college. And she said, because don't forget, we all raised her too. She's our child too. She's our child too. Because she did so much. The library was you know, next to I think every school should have the library next to them. I really do. Because it's a safe spot to do your homework at if you don't have internet at home, I mean, really. God, the library is a wonderful place. I'm glad to have you here. Not your baby doll. Welcome. No, I'm glad to have a librarian in the house. Love it. That's a compliment right there, lipstick. That is, love it. Thank you so much. You make this, I mean, you all make it worthwhile, but a librarian is just, to me, that is one of the most noble professions. What is it, Tommy D always says salute or whatever. Hats off to you. I mean, seriously. Wonderful, wonderful people, librarians. Well, hey, I'll do that with honor. Has anybody ever read this book before? The Five People You Meet in Heaven? It started where, he's like, it's his birthday that day. He's 83. He's always been the maintenance man on like this Ruby Pier. It's like a Coney Island, I guess. Oh, I didn't have a live today. Feel like making. Oh, okay. So this is we're doing this one. I'm only on page 9, so it's by Mitch Albom. They did make a movie of it, but like I said, I really always feel like the book is better because your mind's eye makes the best scenery. Like if somebody is bad at making special effects and stuff in the movies, that can just ruin it. But your mind is just the way it is, you know? That's the way to go. So, so he's sitting on the aluminum chair, and his nose had been broken several times in what he called saloon fights. He has 19 minutes left on Earth. His broadly jawed face might have been good looking once, the way a prize fighter might have looked before he took too many punches. Well, we all know I like men with broken noses, but he is 83. But I know what he's talking about. Now Eddie just looked tired. This was his regular spot on the Ruby Pier boardwalk behind the Jackrabbit ride, which in the 1980s was the Thunderbolt, which in the 1970s was the Steel Eel, which in the 1960s was the Lollipop Swings, which in the 1950s was the Laugh in the Dark, and which before that was the Stardust Band Shell, which was where Eddie met Marguerite. Every life has one true love snapshot. For Eddie, it came on a warm September night after a thunderstorm, when the boardwalk was spongy with water. She wore a yellow cotton dress and a pink beret in her hair. Eddie didn't say much. He was so nervous. He felt as if his tongue was glued to his teeth. They danced to the music of a big band, Long Legs Delaney and his Everglades Orchestra. He bought her a lemon fizz. She said she had to go before her parents got angry. But as she walked away, she turned and waved. That was the snapshot. For the rest of his life, whenever he thought of Marguerite, Eddie would see that moment, her waving over her shoulder, her dark hair falling over one eye, and he would feel the same arterial burst of love. That night he came home and woke his older brother. He told him he'd met the girl he was going to marry. Go to sleep, Eddie, his brother groaned. Whoosh, a wave broke on the beach. Eddie coughed up something he didn't want to see. He spat it away. Whoosh. He used to think a lot about Marguerite, not so much now. She was like a wound beneath an old bandage, and he had grown more used to the bandage. Whoosh. Was that what was shingles? Whoosh. Supposed to be the waves. I'm not good at waves. 16 minutes to live. No story sits by itself. Sometimes stories meet at corners, and sometimes they cover one another completely, like stones beneath a river. The end of Eddie's story was touched by another, seemingly innocent story. Months earlier, a cloudy night when a young man arrived at Ruby Pier with three of his friends. A young man whose name was Nicky had just begun driving and was still not comfortable carrying a keychain. So he removed the single car key and put it in his jacket pocket and then tied his jacket around his waist. For the next few hours, he and his friends rode all of the fastest rides. The Flying Falcon, Freddy's Free Fall, the Ghoster Coaster. Hands in the air, one of them yelled. They threw their hands in the air. Later, when it was dark, they returned to the car lot. Exhausted and laughing, drinking beer from brown paper bags, Nicky reached into his jacket pocket. He fished around. He cursed. The key was gone. 14 minutes until his death. Eddie wiped his brow with a handkerchief. Out on the ocean, diamonds of sunlight danced on the water, and Eddie stared at their movement. He had not been right on his feet since the war. But back at the Stardust Band show with Marguerite, Eddie had still been graceful. He closed his eyes and allowed himself to summon the song that brought them together, the one Judy Garland sang in that movie. It mixed in his head now with a I can't even say the word, cacophony of the crashed waves and children screaming on the rides. You made me love you. I didn't want to do it. Eddie felt her hands on his shoulders. He squeezed his eyes tightly to bring the memory closer. 12 minutes to live. Excuse me. A young girl, maybe 8 years old, stood before him. I knew you were going to say sun ministry. Blocking his sunlight. She had blonde curls and wore flip-flops and denim cutoff shorts and green t-shirt with a cartoon duck on the front. Little 8-year-old girl. Amy, he thought her name was. Amy or Annie. She'd been here a lot this summer, although Eddie never saw her mother or father. Excuse me, she said again. Eddie maintenance? Eddie sighed. Just Eddie, he said. Eddie? Mm-hmm. Can you make me? She put her hands together as if praying. Come on, kid, I don't have all day. Can you make me an animal? Can you? Eddie looked up, as if he had to think about it. Then he reached into his shirt pocket and pulled out 3 yellow pipe cleaners, which he carried just for this purpose. Yeah, the little girl said, slapping her hands. Eddie began twisting the pipe cleaners. Where's your parents? Riding the rides. Without you? The girl shrugged. My mom's with her boyfriend. Eddie looked up. Oh. He bent the pipe cleaners into several small loops, then twisted the loops around one another. His hands shook now, so it took longer than it used to. But soon the pipe cleaners resembled a head, ears, body, and a tail. A rabbit? The little girl said. Eddie winked. Thank you. She spun away, lost in that place where kids don't even know their feet are moving. Eddie wiped his brow again, then closed his eyes, slumped into the beach chair, and tried to get the old song back into his head. A seagull squawked as it flew overhead. How do people choose their final words? Do they realize their gravity? Are they fated to be wise? By his 83rd birthday, Eddie had lost nearly everyone he cared about. Some had died young, and some had been given a chance to grow old before a disease or an accident took them away. At their funerals, Eddie listened as mourners recalled their final conversations. It's as if he knew he was going to die, some would say. Eddie never believed that. As far as he could tell, when your time came, it came, and that was that. You might say something smart on your way out, but you might just as easily say something stupid. For the record, Eddie's final words would be, Get back! You guys want me to keep going? Give me a sign if you want me to keep going. Something. Let me know you're still here listening. I mean, I know rewatchers would want to hear it, but I like to know I got. Thank you, lipstick. All right. These are the sounds of Eddie's last minutes on Earth. Waves crashing, the distant thump of rock music, the whirring engine of a small biplane, dragging an ad from its tail, and this. Oh my God, look! Eddie felt his eyes dart beneath his lids. Over the years, he had come to know every noise at Ruby Pier and could sleep through them all like a lullaby. This voice was not in the lullaby. Oh my God! Look! Eddie bolted upright. A woman with dimpled arms was holding a shopping bag and pointing and screaming. A small crowd gathered around her, their eyes to the sky. Eddie saw it immediately. Atop Freddy's Freefall, the new tower drop attraction, one of the carts was tilted at an angle as if trying to dump its cargo. 4 passengers, 2 men and 2 women, held only by a safety bar, were grabbing frantically at anything they could. Oh my God! Those people! They're gonna fall! A voice squawked from the radio on Eddie's belt. Eddie, Eddie, trying to make a radio. Eddie, Eddie. He pressed the button. I see it. Get security. People ran up from the beach, pointing as if they had practiced this drill. Look, up in the sky. The amusement ride turned evil. Eddie grabbed his cane and clomped to the safety fence around the platform base, his wad of keys jangling against his hip. His heart was racing. Freddy's free fall was supposed to drop two carts in a stomach churning descent, only to be halted at the last instant by a gush of hydraulic air. How did one cart come loose? Like that. It was tilted just a few feet below the upper platform, as if it had started downward, then changed its mind. Eddie reached the gate and had to catch his breath. Dominguez came running and nearly banged into him. Listen to me, Eddie said, grabbing Dominguez by the shoulders. His grip was so tight Dominguez made a pained face. Listen to me. Who's up there? Willie. Okay, he must have hit the emergency stop. That's why the cart is hanging. Get up the ladder and tell Willie to manually release the safety restraint so those people can get out, okay? It's on the back of the cart. So you're going to have to hold him while he leans out there, okay? Then, the two of yous now, not one, you got it? The two of yous get them out. One holds the other. Got it? Got it? Dominguez nodded quickly. Then send that damn cart down so we can figure out what else happened. What happened? Sorry. Eddie's head was pounding. Although his park had been free of any major accidents, he knew the horror stories of his business. Once in Brighton, a bolt unfastened on a gondola ride and two people fell to their death. Another time in Wonderland Park, a man had tried to walk across a roller coaster track. He fell through it and got stuck beneath his armpits. He was wedged in screaming, and the cars came racing towards him, and, well, that was the worst. Eddie pushed that from his mind. There were people all around him now, hands over their mouths, watching Dominguez climb the ladder. Eddie tried to remember the insides of Freddy's freefall. Engine, cylinders, hydraulic seals, cables. How does a cart come loose? He followed the ride visually from the four frightened people at the top, down the towering shaft and into the base. Engines, cylinders, hydraulic seals, cables. Dominguez reached the upper platform. He did as Eddie told him, holding Willie as Willie leaned towards the back of the cart to release the restraint. One of the female riders lunged for Willie and nearly pulled him off the platform. I don't know. The crowd gasped. Wait, Eddie said to himself. Willie tried again. This time he popped the safety release. Cable, Eddie mumbled. The bar lifted and the crowd went, and the riders were pulled to the platform. The cable is unraveling. And Eddie was right. Inside the base of Freddy's free fall, hidden from view, the cable that lifted cart number 2 had for the last few months been scraping across a locked pulley. Because it was locked, the pulley had gradually ripped the cable's steel wires, as if it was husking an ear of corn, until they were nearly severed. No one noticed. How could they notice? Only someone who had crawled inside the mechanism would have seen the unlikely cause of the problem. The pulley was wedged by a small object that must have fallen through the opening at a most precise moment. A car key. I'm almost to the point where he passes. Cool. It's sickening that they let that munchy person stay in there. Hi, Adrian. Thank you, lipstick. That munchy person just stays in there, just talking about me over and over again, and they just let this person spam their whole chat talking about me. Like, why? Hi, Cassidy. Like, why do they have to do that? I would never let somebody do that. Sit there fucking just bashing somebody through a whole chat. Just randomly. Like as if they fucking pay the person to do it. I mean, they just sit there doing it. Isn't that horrible? It's like, what the fuck, man? I know. I am gonna. I'm gonna. We're just reading a book, Adrian. I don't know if it's. Actually, we're already on page 23. Imagine that. Almost half done. I know. Okay, so the car key, remember the guy that had lost his car key? It fell out of his jacket that was tied around his waist. And that's where it got wedged inside the ride. I think it's probably like one of those elevator or whatever they call them. There's like a drop. They just drop, free fall drop. You've seen them before, right? So it wore their thing now. So now he noticed that it was that um the cables are almost completely severed, so they're not even going to be able to lower it down. Says, "Don't release the cart," Eddie yelled. He waved his arms. Hey, hey, it's the cable. Don't release the cart. It'll snap. The crowd drowned him out. It cheered wildly as Willie and Domingos unloaded the final rider. All four were safe. They hugged atop the platform. Dom! Willie! Eddie yelled. Someone banged against his waist, knocking his walkie-talkie to the ground. Eddie bent to get it. Willie went to the controls. He put his finger on the green button. Eddie looked up. No! No! Don't! Eddie turned to the crowd. Get back! Something in Eddie's voice must have caught the people's attention. They stopped cheering and began to scatter. An opening cleared around the bottom of Freddie's freefall, and Eddie saw the last face of his life. She was sprawled upon the ride's metal base, as if someone had knocked her onto it. Her nose running, tears filled her eyes. The little girl with the pipe cleaner animal, Annie. Mom, Mom, she heaved almost rhythmically, her body frozen in the paralysis of a crying child. Mom, Mom. Eddie's eyes shot from her to the cart. Did he have time? Her to the carts. Whoomp, too late. The carts were dropping. Jesus, he released the brake, and for Eddie, everything slipped into watery motion. He dropped his cane and pushed off on his bad leg and felt a shot of pain that almost knocked him down. A big step, another step. Inside the shaft of Freddy's free fall, the cable snapped its final thread and ripped across the hydraulic line. Cart number 2 was in a dead drop now, nothing to stop it, a boulder off a cliff. In those final moments, Eddie seemed to hear the whole world Distant screaming, waves, music, a rush of wind, a low, loud, ugly sound that he realized was his own voice blasting through his chest. The little girl raised her arms. Eddie lunged. His bad leg buckled. He half flew, half stumbled towards her, landing on the metal platform, which ripped through his shirt and split open his skin just beneath the patch that read Eddie Maintenance. He felt two hands in his own, two small hands, a stunning impact, a blinding flash of light, and then nothing. Today is Eddie's birthday. It is the 1920s. A crowded hospital in one of the poorest sections of the city. Eddie's father smokes cigarettes in the waiting room where the other fathers are also smoking. The nurse enters with a clipboard. She calls his name. She mispronounces it. The other men blow smoke. Well, he raises his hand. Congratulations, the nurse says. He follows her down the hallway to the newborn's nursery. His shoes clap on the floor. Wait here, she says. Through the glass, he sees her check the numbers of the wooden cribs. She moves past one. Hi, Bobby Ramos. Hi, Cassidy. She moves past one, not his. Another, not his. Another, not his. Not his. She stops. There, beneath the blanket, a tiny head covered in a blue cap. She checks her clipboard again, then points. The father breathes heavily, nods his head. For a moment, his face seems to crumble, like a bridge collapsing into a river. Then he smiles. His. We're halfway through this book. The 5 People You Meet in Heaven by Mitch Albom. We are halfway through. Eddie saw nothing of his final moment on earth. Nothing of the pier or the crowd or the shattered fiberglass cart. In the stories about life after death, the soul often floats above the goodbye moment, hovering over police cars at highway accidents, or clinging like a spider to a hospital room ceiling. These are people who receive a second chance, who somehow, for some reason, resume their place in earth. Eddie, it appeared, was not getting a second chance. Where? 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 The sky was a misty pumpkin shade, then a deep turquoise, then a bright lime. Eddie was floating. His arms were extended. Where? The tower cart was falling. He remembered that. The little girl, Annie, she was crying. He remembered that. He remembered lunging. He remembered hitting the platform. He felt her 2 small hands in his. Then what? Did I save her? Eddie could only picture it at a distance, as if it happened years ago. Stranger still, he could not feel any emotions that went with it. He could only feel calm, like a child in the cradle of its mother's arms. Where? The sky around him changed again to grapefruit yellow, then a forest green, then a pink that Eddie momentarily associated with, of all things, cotton candy. Did I save her? Did she live? Where is my worry? Where is my pain? That was what was missing. Every hurt he'd ever suffered, every ache he'd ever endured, it was all as gone as an expired breath. He could not feel agony. He could not feel sadness. His consciousness felt smoky, wisp-like, incapable of anything but calm. Below him now the colors changed again. Something was swirling, water, an ocean. He was floating over a vast yellow sea. Now it turned melon. Now it was sapphire. Now he began to drop, hurtling towards the surface. It was faster than anything he'd ever imagined, yet there wasn't as much as a breeze on his face, and he felt no fear. He saw the sands of a golden shore. Then he was underwater. Then everything was silent. Where is my worry? Where is my pain? Do I still have you guys here? All I need is just one yes, and I'll keep going. Let me know if you guys think I'm making a fool of myself doing this. I mean, I know that this community is into a lot of other different things. Oh, thank you. But I like to read, and that's that. Cool. Thank you, guys. Love that. I know I like to put like expression and stuff into the words and everything, but I've been doing that since I was a little kid. And whenever I would read, I would try to like do the voices and act it out and just try to. I just loved it. Oh, hi, Mary. Oh, good. Okay. We're on page 29 of a 52-page book. The 5 people you meet in heaven. Cool. Today is Eddie's birthday. He is 5 years old. It is a Sunday afternoon at Ruby Pier. Picnic tables are set along the boardwalk, which overlooks the long white beach. There is a vanilla cake, so it's got to be like within the 20s, because remember, he was born in the 20s. So they're flashing back because this started at the end. I think he's going back through his life. There is a vanilla cake with blue wax candles. There is a bowl of orange juice. The pier workers are milling about, the barbers, the sideshow acts, the animal trainers, some men from the fishery. Eddie's father, as usual, is in a card game. Eddie plays at his feet. His older brother Joe is doing push ups in front of a group of elderly women who feign interest and clap politely. Eddie is wearing his birthday gift, a red cowboy hat and a toy holster. He gets up. That was my dog, not me. He gets up and runs from one group to the next, pulling out the toy gun and going bang, bang. Come here, boy, Mickey Shea beckons from a bench. Bang, bang, goes Eddie. Mickey Shea works with Eddie's dad, fixing the rides. He is overweight and wears suspenders and is always singing Irish songs. To Eddie, he smells funny, like cough medicine. Come here, let me give you your birthday bumps, like we do in Ireland. Oh, I don't like that shit. I'd be pissed if somebody did this to my kid. Suddenly, Mickey's large hands are under Eddie's armpits, and he is hoisted up, then flipped over and dangled by the feet. Eddie's hats fall off. Careful, Mickey, Eddie's mother yells. Eddie's father looks up, smirks, then returns to his card game. I got him now. 1 birthday bump for every year. He lowers his head gently until his head brushes the floor. 1. He lifts Eddie back up. The others join in laughing. 2, 3. Upside down, Eddie is not sure who is who. His head is getting heavy. 4, they shout. 5. Eddie is flipped right side up and put down. Everybody claps. Eddie reaches for his hat, then stumbles over. He gets up, wobbles to Mickey Shea, and punches him in the arm. Ho, ho, what was that for, little man? Mickey says. Everyone laughs. Eddie turns and runs away 3 steps before being swept into his mother's arms. Are you all right, my darling birthday boy? She is only inches from his face. He sees her deep red lipstick. I was upside down, he tells her. I saw, she says. She puts his hat back on his head. Later, she will walk him along the pier and perhaps take him on an elephant ride, or watch the fishermen pull in their evening nets, the fish flopping like shiny wet coins. She will hold his hand and tell him God is proud of him for being a good boy on his birthday, and that will make the whole world feel right side up again. The arrival. Eddie awoke in a teacup. It was part of some old amusement ride. A large teacup made of dark polished wood with a cushioned seat and a steel hinged door. Do you remember those? The teacups? I never was big on the teacups. My sister Donna used to always love them. I didn't. Eddie's arms and legs dangled over the edge. The sky continued to change colors from a shoe leather brown to a deep scarlet. His instinct was to reach for his cane. He had kept it by his bed for the last few years because there were mornings when he no longer had the strength to get up without it. This embarrassed Eddie, who used to punch men in the shoulders when he greeted them. But now there was no cane, so Eddie exhaled and tried to pull himself up. Surprisingly, his back did not hurt. His legs did not throb. He yanked harder and hoisted himself easily over the edge of the teacup, landing awkwardly on the ground, where he was struck by three quick thoughts. First, he felt wonderful. Second, he was all alone. Third, he was still on Ruby Pier. But it was a different Ruby Pier now. There were canvas tents and vacant grassy sections, and so few obstructions you could see the mossy breakwater out in the ocean. The colors of the attractions were firehouse reds and creamy whites, no teals or maroons, and each ride had its own wooden ticket booth. The teacup he had awoken in was part of a primitive attraction called Spinorama. Its sign was plywood, as were other low slung signs hinged on storefronts that lined the promenade. Eddie blinked hard. This was the Ruby Pier of his childhood, some 75 years ago. Only everything was new, freshly scrubbed. Over there was the loop-de-loop ride, which had been torn down decades ago. And over there were the bathhouses and the saltwater swimming pools that had been torn down in the 50s. Over there, jutting into the sky, was the original Ferris wheel in its pristine white paint. And beyond that, the streets of his old neighborhood and the rooftops of the crowded brick tenements with laundry lines hanging from the windows. Eddie tried to yell, but his voice was raspy air. He mouthed a hey, but nothing came from his throat. There's a Brighton, though, in the States, too. He grabbed at his arms and legs. Aside from his lack of voice, he felt incredible. He walked in a circle, he jumped, no pain. In the last 10 years, he had forgotten what it was like to walk without wincing or to sit without struggling to find comfort for his lower back. On the outside, he looked the same as he had that morning, a squat, barrel-chested old man in a cap and shorts and brown maintenance jersey. But he was limber. So limber, in fact, he could touch his ankles and raise a leg to his belly. He explored his body like an infant, fascinated by the new mechanics. A rubber man doing a rubber man stretch. I thought it was in New Jersey, actually. I don't know. I thought there was a movie called Brighton Beach. Where was that at? Then he ran. Ha ha, running. Eddie had not truly run in more than 60 years. Not since the war. But he was running now, starting with a few gingerly steps, then accelerating into a full gait, faster, faster, like the running boy on the boardwalk past a bait and tackle stand for fishermen, 5 cents, and a bathing suit rental stand for swimmers, 3 cents. He ran past a shoot ride called the Dipsy Doodle. He ran along the Ruby Pier Promenade. He beneath the magnificent buildings of Moorish design. He ran past the carousel with its carved wooden horses, glass mirrors, and Wurlitzer organ, all shiny and new. Only an hour ago, it seemed, he had been scraping rust from its pieces in its shop. Hey, Stephanie. We're reading The Five People You Meet in Heaven by Mitch Albom. We're almost half done. He died. He's just in heaven. He hasn't met the first person yet. He ran down the heart of the old Midway, where the wait guessers, fortune tellers, and dancing gypsies had once worked. He lowered his chin and held his arms out like a glider, and every few steps he would jump the way children do. Hopping, running, will turn to flying. It might have seemed ridiculous to anyone watching, this white-haired maintenance worker all alone, making like an airplane, but the running boy inside every man, no matter how old he gets. And then Eddie stopped running. He heard something. A voice, tinny, as if coming through a megaphone. How about him, ladies and gentlemen? Have you ever seen such a horrible sight? Nobody's Miss Passion. Stephanie's not Miss Passion. No, that's not Miss Passion. Mm-mm. She's been here a while. And then, okay, oh wait, how about him? Have you ever seen? Eddie was standing by an empty ticket kiosk in front of a large theater. The sign above read, "The world's most curious citizens, Ruby Pierce Sideshow. Holy smoke, they're fat, they're skinny. See the wild man." The sideshow, the freak house, the ballyhoo hall. Eddie recalled them shutting this down at least 50 years ago. No, it's not. Mm-mm. I don't think so. Melinda is the name you're thinking. About the time television shows became popular and people didn't need sideshows to tickle their imagination. No, that is not. She's been here every night and she's been listening to the books and everything. I mean, she's been here every night, Ministry, listening to. She was here a whole night last night listening to The Art of Racing in the Rain. Yeah, different Stephanie. Look well upon this savage, born into the most peculiar handicap. Eddie peered into the entrance. He had encountered some odd people here. There was Jolly Jane, who weighed over 500 pounds and needed two men to push her up the stairs. There were conjoined twin sisters who shared a spine and played musical instruments. There were men who swallowed swords, women with beards, and a pair of Indian brothers whose skin went rubbery from being stretched and soaked in oils until it hung in bunches from their limbs. Eddie, as a child, had felt sorry for the sideshow cast. They were forced to sit in booths or on stages, sometimes behind bars, as patrons walked past them, leering and pointing. A barker would ballyhoo the oddity, and it was a barker's voice that Eddie heard now. Only a terrible twist of fate could leave a man in such a pitiful condition. From the farthest corner of the world, we have brought him for your examination. I don't know. Oh, I don't know. She's been here for a while. I don't know. It throws me off when all that stuff starts. I don't even know where I'm at. Is anybody listening to this still? I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know. Okay, I have a quiz. Where am I at then? What part am I at then? Quiz time. No, it's okay, Stephanie. Don't worry. I don't know if it is or it isn't, but I like Stephanie. I like this person. They've been coming here and enjoying the readings and stuff. I wouldn't care if it is the same stuff. I don't care. It doesn't matter. When people come in here, they're who they are like here. And that's all it is. But I don't know anything about any Miss Passion with Stephanie. I don't know any of that. I don't watch any of that. That person's always been kind here. I mean, I know Miss Passion wouldn't stick around to hear books. No offense against Miss Passion. No offense against you, Miss Passion. No offense. Maybe she doesn't say anything, but I don't think anybody here thought of it like that. We just thought that was her name. I was just almost done with the book. It was just yeah, that's a pretty common name. Dawson. Look at Dawson's Creek. Yeah, she has no. Ministry is right on the sense that if you were that person and you were being doxxed, you would appreciate it, Stephanie. You know what I'm saying? If you were that person and you were being doxxed and we didn't know it, ministry would be doing you a favor right now. Ministry is right in that sense. Oh, jeez, oh, Pete. Oh my God, Roscoe. Come on, we could just move so I can put this computer down. God, sleep over there a little more so I can have a little room. Jeez, oh, Pete. Ah, this fucking bat just knocked all that shit over. Every I don't know. Well, let's all be friends. Can we all be friends? I'm getting stressed out. Stressed out. I'm confused as it too. I don't understand. All I wanted to do was just read this book because of Pauline. That's all. And I'll just forget about it. No, you didn't. Can we just go on with the book? Okay. Eddie peered into the entrance. He had encountered some odd people here. Okay, you went through all that, right? Okay. Only a terrible twist of fate. Okay, Eddie entered the darkened hall. The voice grew louder. This tragic soul has endured a perversion of nature. It was coming from the other side of the stage. Only here, at the world's most curious citizens, can you draw this near. Eddie pulled aside the curtain. Feast your eyes upon the most unusual. The barker's voice vanished, and Eddie stepped back in disbelief. There, sitting in a chair, alone on the stage, was a middle-aged man with narrow, stooped shoulders, naked from the waist up. His belly sagged over his belt. His hair was closely cropped. His lips were thin, and his face was long and drawn. Eddie would have long since forgotten him, were it not for one distinctive feature. His skin was blue. "Hello, Edward," he said. "I have been waiting for you." The first person Eddie meets in heaven. "Don't be afraid," the blue man said, rising slowly from his chair. "Don't be afraid." His voice was soothing, but Eddie could only stare. He had barely known this man. Well, don't go. I wish you wouldn't go. This is a good book. It's called The Five People You Meet in Heaven. Weren't you there through that whole book, the ending of the book last night, The Art of Racing in the Rain? I was bawling my eyes out. See, I'm happy to see you here, and it will make me feel sad to see you go. And I can't make you stay. Does anybody want me to continue this story? I don't even know. Should I? I don't even know. Well, then just stay. Hi, Lulu. It was just an accident. No, I don't want anybody to go. I like you guys. I want you all to be here. Ugh. How about you just stick around and listen to the first person that he meets in heaven? How about that? Hi, Delbert. This is the first person that he meets in heaven. There's 5. Ah, Jesus Christ. Exactly. Exactly. For lipstick. For lipstick, I'm just going to keep reading, okay? So, I really wish people would enjoy the book, but I'm sorry I can't make people enjoy it, but I'm just going to keep reading. It was just a mistake, okay? Please. Please. Okay. Okay, so he came in the room and the blue man is sitting in the chair. It's the first person that he's meeting in heaven, okay? Don't be afraid, the blue man said, rising slowly from his chair. Oh, this fucking charger, man. Damn it. I could just make it fucking work. Well, I wish you wouldn't leave, Stephanie. I hate that when people get... You could have texted that private or something. I don't know, man. Fucking hate it when I feel like people get chased out, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Don't be afraid, the blue man said, rising slowly from his chair. Don't be afraid. His voice was soothing, but Eddie could only stare. He had barely known this man. Why was he seeing him now? He was like one of those faces that pops into your dream, and the next morning you say, "You'll never guess who I dreamed about last night." Your body feels like a child's, right? Eddie nodded. You were a child when you knew me, that's why. You start with the same feelings you had. Start what? Eddie thought. The blue man lifted his chin. His skin was a grotesque shade, a graying blueberry. His fingers were wrinkled. He walked outside. Eddie followed. The pier was empty. The beach was empty. Was the entire planet empty? Tell me something, the blue man said. He pointed to the 2-humped wooden roller coaster in the distance, the Whipper. It was built in the 1920s, before under friction wheels, meaning the cars couldn't turn very quickly. unless he wanted them launching off the track. The whipper is still the whipper. Is it still the fastest ride on earth? Eddie looked at the old clanking thing, which had been torn down years ago. He shook his head no. Ah, the blue man said. I imagined as much. Things don't change here. And there's none of that peering down from the clouds, I'm afraid. Here? Eddie thought. The blue man smiled as if he'd heard the question. He touched Eddie's shoulder, and Eddie felt a surge of warmth, unlike anything he'd ever felt before. His thoughts came spilling out like sentences. How did I die? An accident, the blue man said. How long have I been dead? A minute? An hour? 1,000 years? Where am I? The blue man pursed his lips, then repeated the question thoughtfully. Where are you? He turned and raised his arms. All at once, the rides at the old Ruby Pier cranked to life. The Ferris wheel spun, the Dodgem cars smacked into each other, the whipper clacked uphill, the carousel horses bobbed on their brass poles to the cheery music of the Wurlitzer organ. The ocean was in front of them, and the sky was the color of lemons. Where do you think? The blue man asked. Heaven. No, Eddie shook his head violently. No. The blue man seemed amused. No, can't be heaven. Why? Because this is where you grew up, he said. Eddie mouthed the word yes. Ah, the blue man nodded. Well, people often belittle the place where they were born, but heaven can be found in the most unlikely corners. And heaven itself has many steps. This, for me, is the second, and for you, the first. He led Eddie through the park, passing cigar shops and sausage stands, and the flat joints where suckers lost their nickels and dimes. Heaven, Eddie thought. Ridiculous. He had spent most of his adult life trying to get away from Ruby Pier. It was an amusement park, that's all. A place to scream and get wet and trade your dollars for Kewpie dolls. The thought that this was some kind of blessed resting place was beyond his imagination. He tried to speak, and this time he heard a small grunt from his chest. The blue man turned. Your voice will come. We all go through the same thing. You cannot talk when you first arrive. He smiled. It helps you listen. That makes sense, huh? Not being able to talk when you first get to heaven because it helps you listen. There are 5 people you meet in heaven, the blue man suddenly said. Each of us was in your life for a reason. You may not have known the reason at the time, and that is what heaven is for understanding your life on earth. Eddie looked confused. People think of heaven as a paradise garden, a place where they can float on clouds and laze in rivers and mountains, but scenery without solace is meaningless. You guys still with me? This is the greatest gift God can give you, to understand what happened in your life, to have it explained. It is the peace you have been searching for. Eddie coughed, trying to bring up his voice. He was tired of being silent. I am your first person, Edward. When I died, my life was illuminated by 5 others. And then I came here to wait for you, to stand in your line, to tell you my story, which becomes part of yours. There will be others for you too. Some you knew, maybe some you didn't, but they all crossed your path before they died. And they altered it forever. Thank you, Delbert. Eddie pushed a sound up from his chest, as hard as he could. What? He finally croaked. His voice seemed to be breaking through a shell like a baby chick. What killed? The blue man waited patiently. What killed you? The blue man looked a bit surprised. He smiled at Eddie. You did, he said. Today is Eddie's birthday. He is 7 years old, and his gift is a new baseball. He squeezes it in each hand, feeling a surge of power that runs up his arms. He imagines he is one of his heroes on the Cracker Jack collector cards, maybe the great pitcher Walter Johnson. Here, toss it, his brother Joe says. They are running along the midway, past the game booth, where if you knock over 3 green bottles, you win a coconut and a straw. Come on, Eddie, Joe says. Share. Eddie stops and imagines himself in a stadium. He throws the ball. His brother pulls in his elbows and ducks. Too hard, Joe yells. Okay, well, don't tell me then. Okay? When you come in here and say that, that's, yeah. Was thinking she was defending. Oh hell no. Oh hell no. No, the point is this, okay? Is this. This is the point. No, no, no. Oh hell. Oh hell to the no. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. I'll be back. Peace, love, and tacos.